11 Personnel is live here on the KSR YouTube channel, presented by our good friends at Monticello Bank. I'm Nick Roush. He's Adam Luckett. Hey, I got my cup too. Shout out Monticello Bank. Shout out NBCBank.com. Shout out to all of you who are joining us right now in the middle of a crazy, crazy time across the Big Blue Nation, where today we're going to talk a lot about the transfer portaling that's going on, the players going in, the players going out, kind of where everything stands there. We've got some coaching moves. But like I did before we start, I wanted to propose a Monticello Bank cheers to kicking Louisville's ass again. I'm doing the thing, too, now where if nothing else is on, I just turn that game on, and I'm just like, oh, remember that part? Like, that was pretty fun. It's always good. And then especially the part where how quiet it gets when Barryon Brown's just run into the house, and then they zoom in on the Kentucky fan in the student section. He's just, I mean, it's just such a great production. Really great theater with the sky cam and the packed stadium. First time that thing's ever been packed. Just a glorious, glorious game to go back and rewatch.
Feels like a light year since our last episode. I feel like I've lived a 2 or 3 month life in the last week.
I mean, we
just
had
with
like this
everything going on.
Everything was falling apart on the last episode. Like we were venting long-term frustrations, and now it's just like full steam ahead, and not a completely opposite direction, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, join KSR Plus. Right, just do it. Take the dive. I dropped another quarterback name in there tonight. Just do it. What are you waiting for?
UK1 for our YouTube viewers. That's 2 months for $1 instead of just one.
There you go. What are you waiting on? Do it. You won't regret it. I promise. If you do, don't sue me. Let's just start with the Louisville game, right? Like, Nick, that was a seismic win on all levels. Louisville came in there, thought they were going to beat Kentucky by 20, having this great season with their golden boy head coach, with Bear Brom on the sidelines, and little old 6-5 Kentucky, who hadn't played anyone according to their fans, who hadn't beaten anyone, who wasn't any good. So let's show out in this big game, have this huge sellout crowd, and boom, they went out and they folded in the fourth quarter. Kentucky made the plays. I mean, that's what happened, and it was as sweet as a victory as they've had under Mark Stoops in his run there. And it's one they're going to be able to dangle over Louisville fans, especially ones that live here in this where we live, Nick.
Yeah.
I know a lot of fans out there, this is not maybe the top rivalry for them. Other games mean more. But this game means a lot to people here. I mean, a lot. I mean, it's by far the biggest game of the year for a good chunk of the fan base here. And to do that in this season with how it went, Nick, it was just almost like a reminder to Louisville, like, hey, have fun. You're doing good things over there. But we still have a better roster. We still play in a better conference, and we still have the mental edge over you. And at the end of every year, no matter what happens, you got to play us at the end of the day. And you can take all that you want, but you got to play us, and you got to beat us still at the end of the day. And Louisville won. They called it the Super Bowl, right? Like all day.
Yeah.
And then Nick, who started the fight at the beginning of that game?
Oh, it was the Cards.
It wasn't Kentucky. That was a message on those special teams. You won't convince me otherwise. Like, Louisville came out there and wanted to mix it up a little bit, and Kentucky didn't take the cheese. And then Louisville was the one that kind of lost their emotions again in that game.
And Kentucky is the kind of team that had been taking the cheese all year, right? Like, I don't know. It's kind of like if J.J. Weaver plays Louisville every Saturday, he's a future Hall of Famer, right?
Right, yeah.
Whatever, something about that game. I know part of it. Definitely have that, like, no matter what happens early on, like, that was disappointing. If you reverse course here, things feel a lot differently. So, like, you can just kind of put some of that in the past and move forward. But something about there really does need to be a little bit of whatever that message is against Louisville. Let's get some hate for Texas. Like, maybe Ooh, look it. That's what it is. We got to take Cats money line at Texas next year because Cats love the L's down. What's horns down going to be like, right? That's the horns down play. The Cats get to do horns down for the first time. They're going to be horns down and all over the place.
I wonder in that facility, Nick, like what do they do and what do they show to get this team to hate those guys over there?
They hate them so much.
I mean, the hater is strong over, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Like I love it because Nick, like when Petrino was there, he called Kentucky slapdicks, right? Mm-hmm. And they acted like Kentucky was poverty program, yada yada yada. You know, look at us, we're the big bad CUSA team. Like that's the crap I had to hear for years over there. And so, Kentucky's got their stuff together, bare minimum. Now you could say what you want about everything going on, but they're operating like a competent Power 5 football program, bare minimum right now. Mm-hmm. And that's something Louisville's never had to deal with in state. And I think you've seen that kind of play out on the field, in my opinion. And that has a lot to do with this current winning streak, and Mark Stoops just gets them ready to play. And it was sweet because, really, they blamed everything else on Satterfield, just like they did on Crackthorpe, right? Oh, we're only losing because we hired a bad coach. Yeah, there's nothing systemically wrong here with our football program. We just hired a bad apple.
Yeah, he's just one guy.
So you went and got the cream of the crop, the best you could get, right? You hired, bring Nick's cousin home, and he's having this goal, this great year for him. Kind of like it was like their confirmation bias, right? Oh, yeah, of course, Satterfield. It was his fault. Now we're back, baby, Cards. And little old Kentucky lives in there, and the same thing happens to them. They got their ass beat again. And so that's why I think here in Louisville, in Kentucky, it was so sweet, and it was a palate cleanser. For kind of how the season went.
That's a great descriptor of it. Yeah.
This season was a disappointment in numerous ways, and we're going to talk about some stuff they need to fix. But it was a palate cleanser at the end of the year to give them that's a big win. I mean, if you're ranking Stoops wins, that's in the top 10.
Yeah.
And to do it to the Louisville and to kind of ruin another great season for them. In their place again. I mean, that's twice that's happened in the last 8 years. It's hard to get any sweeter than that. That's college football, and that's why we love it. That wins like that are how you grow fan bases, and how normal fans become sickos like me is because of games like that. That high is as high as it gets, and that's why the sport people love it.
And to do it to a rival too, right? Tennessee is it's taken years off of our lives.
Right.
To be able to do that to another fan base, it feels so good. It's putting those years back on my life, and it's giving us new life going into this off season, which there's no denying it's going to be a crazy off season, and that's what we're going to spend most of our night talking about here on 11 Personnel, presented by Monticello Bank. Remember that Monticello Bank, they've been in business for 128 years because it's where people matter. They're putting people first. That means they're putting the numbers on your side to make sure whenever you need to take out a loan, whether you're getting a mortgage or a new car or refinance, they're going to put the numbers on your side to make sure you're getting the best deal possible. They've got 21 branches in 14 counties across the Commonwealth, and you can bank with them anywhere at mbcbank.com or with the GoMBC mobile app. Monticello Bank, member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender. Mr. Luckett. The transfer portal, it's not supposed to start until tomorrow, or Monday. I don't know why I said tomorrow. But the new phenomenon in the transfer portal, this is supposed to be a week just for grad transfers and lower division guys. The new thing now is guys are just kind of getting ahead of the curve, trying to beat everybody to the punch. My name is in here, and so hear me out. Well, I'll let you know that I'm there. So we already have 5 Kentucky Wildcats that have let their intentions be known. My rough guesstimates look at projected that's about a third of what we'll get. And that's factoring in, 2 surprises, give or take. That's about what I think we'll get to eventually. None of these so far have been a surprise. And it's one of those, too, that it was kind of funny. I don't know if funny is the right word, but like Isaiah Cummings has had such a weird career that you don't blame him for moving on to the next step, right? Like that's just not. Yeah, go on, do your thing, man. It's been kind of a crazy time for you. Whether it was like, oh, you're a tweener, and then there's this big pop under Cohen, then nothing happens under Scangarello, and you're like, oh hell, where does he fit in now? He comes back when Cohen comes back, isn't used until the final 2 games of the year, and then balls out, right? 4 catches, 98 yards, including the 55-yarder against his hometown team. So he's had a very unusual career, and I feel like that's the story for most of these transfer portal guys that are leaving is it's like something just kind of odd or bizarre, whether it's injury luck or maybe they never figured out off the field, but there's just some sort of weird something that happens that kind of derails them, and really you just or like in the case of Jamarius Dinkins, the Spider, like dude just got over recruited by better guys. I mean, there's just it happens. So that's part of the transfer portal, and as Mark Stoops said, that's kind of how they kick off this week is meeting with everybody, clearly stating their role. Here's what you can do moving forward. If you want to go elsewhere, or like they had these conversations that are up front because this is a business now. Like that's how this works, right? And I think it didn't take long for us to normalize it. Not only as the folks in that locker room, but also as fans observing from afar.
Yeah, you have 3 waves at Kentucky in their situation. You've got the first wave that we're in right now, like guys that won't be here for bowl practice, guys that are moving on, whether that be opt-outs, we saw with Ray Davis,
Yep.
Or guys like or guys like Isaiah Cummings, Jamarius Dinkins, who are getting in the portal because they want to get to their they want to make a decision and get to their new school
as quickly as possible. When I've talked to people who have done that, it's very much a like. There was a coach who just
what I've heard.
Yeah. That's kind of the coaches. It's like high school recruiting is a long courtship. You're trying to get a girlfriend. Transfer portal, bing, bang, boom. Take them out, get them a drink. That's it. Yeah. Deal's done.
Let's get down to it. What are we waiting on?
Exactly.
So that's the chapter we're in right now. And then after the bowl game, there will be more guys who leave. And then in the spring, after spring practice is when, like, the final, to me, that's the final cut down.
Correct.
Right. So that's because that's what Deion Sanders, he cut all those guys after spring practice. And that's where we're at right now. To me, Nick, for my scholarship chart, I've got, and this is counting the freshmen that'll come in that are in the recruiting class right now. Kentucky's at 89 scholarship players. That's with 0 transfer additions. So they're going to want 10 to 12 guys on top of that class. So we're still looking at a lot of turnover that needs to happen on this roster. And so I think we'll see a couple more before the bowl practice starts, and then it'll slow down. Then you'll see 3, 4, 5 after the bowl game, and then you'll see 5, 6, 7-ish during spring. So this is a long process, but that's where we're at right now. A few have happened, but some more will happen moving forward, and we're just kind of playing the waiting game on that. I think they did get. I mentioned last week, I believe, what super seniors, or I think I might have mentioned on Monday, what super seniors stay. And we got 2 this week with Eli Cox and Marcus Cox coming back.
Let's talk about that for a minute, because I do think that's something that really I don't think you can overstate the significance of it. I mean, we knew Kenneth Dorsey was going to be gone. We didn't know about the bowl opt-out. But he didn't really play that much this year. He was injured. There was some stuff going on. But, like, he played 6 games and I think less than 20 snaps in 3 of those. So, for all intents and purposes, having the 2 big Coxes on the offensive line come back means you're getting 4 out of 5 starters back. With Dylan Ray returning, Flax is your only guy you're losing, right? You've had Cortland Ford that you got from USC, who's been here for a year. The biggest thing for me is not only do you not have to go out and find a left tackle in the portal, which is not easy, but you also have some continuity there, and that's really been a problem. I mean, we talked about it on the episode last week, 100 years ago, right? Continuity has been an issue, and getting those 2 back, that really just lets you kind of exhale a little bit, because now you don't have to finding replacements of that kind of quality and caliber so they could stress you out a lot. Where now there's a little bit of ease. I don't want to say, but there's not as much of a sense of urgency. And if we don't find a left tackle, we're screwed, right? Like that helps so much. The continuity helps so much. And here I am rambling on and on. But I don't, especially Marcus Cox, because like he was a very solid kid out of the portal last year. And I think from what I gather too, Luckett, is he's pretty well liked in that room. He's not going to be the guy that's like yelling, hooting, and hollering, but he seems like a good fit for that offensive line room.
I think you just look at the offensive line and they have a plan. At least they've got bodies to use right now. Just on the surface, you got Marcus Cox, left tackle, Cortland Ford, right tackle. Eli Cox at center, Jagger Burton at guard, Dylan Ray at guard. Boom. Right there. There you go. There's your starters right there. So if you had to play a game tomorrow, I think you would feel somewhat comfortable in that. Tackle depth is concerning.
Yeah.
Something they're going to, I think, have to address here in the transfer portal. But everywhere else, I think you feel good. You get Ben Crispin back. He's coming off a major knee injury, so that's how does that rehab go? So and you get Tanner Bowles back.
Same thing for Nick Hall.
Yeah, Nick Hall.
I
mean, what is that injury? We still don't know.
Yeah. Right.
So I think tackle depth is the big thing they probably need to address here. But overall, I think they're in a good spot on the offensive line. Again, we've had this conversation. I don't think it's going to be the big blue wall of old. I don't think that's coming back. But they're in a position here where they're not going to be terrible on the offensive line. Well, they've got their ducks in a row.
Exactly. And there's a great stat that I don't have pulled up, but I believe Kentucky was second or third in the SEC in sacks allowed. So say what you will about the big blue wall or the big blue wall of old, but when you're out there recruiting an important position like quarterback, you say, hey, we got 4 starters back and another guy who's got a lot of experience who's ready to play right tackle. They didn't give up a bunch of sacks last year. That's something that adds to the Cohen effect, which I think is going to play out in the transfer portal, which I believe many people are here to hear us discuss some of the quarterbacks that are already available in the transfer portal market. And the one, did we talk about Will Rogers last week at all? Did that happen? I could hardly, Thanksgiving, man, last week, it flew right by.
I believe it happened after Thanksgiving.
Okay, that might have been a Friday development.
Yeah, because they play Thursday night.
Yeah. So
yeah, there's already buzz for him at Miami, Nick.
Okay.
So
that would make sense because Shannon Dawson's an area guy. I mean, yeah.
We had at KS Board we have talked about that he is, I think, a legitimate candidate for Kentucky. I think he's probably on their big board somewhere in that facility, but I don't think he's going to be the guy. That would just be my guess there. Don't have intel on that. That would just be an educated guess on that. And so, yeah, I think Miami, that makes a lot of sense for him. I believe Manny Navarro at The Athletic reported that this week, that keep an eye on Will Rogers in Miami. And so, yeah, we've talked about this. You can find it. We're on the internet if you didn't know. But
yep, we are on the internet.
I don't think he's going to be the guy I just don't think fit wise it's there for what Kentucky is going to want. I mean, I think that's really big here, Nick. We heard less than a week ago, Liam Cohen got on a podium and pretty much went through his checklist with the media, what they're looking for in the portal. And I think structure-wise, I don't know if they're going to want another short quarterback.
Yep, which brings us
with arm strength concerns.
Brings us to the other Will, who's going to be one of the more sought-after players in the transfer portal. 6'5", 245 pounds, from Kansas State, Will Howard. Got a lot of playing experience there. Helped take the Wildcats to the Big 12 championship game 2 years ago. And to your point, when you talked about the things that Liam Cohen was listing off, he's 18-8 in his last 2 years as a starter. That's pretty good. He has that running ability as well. They did a lot of that pistol read option stuff where, especially in the red zone, that was really effective. I don't think he's as athletic or has as strong of an arm as a Will Levis, but he does have some gutsiness to him, right? And
Will Levis light.
yeah, Will Levis light. That's a good way to put it. And the thing that we talked about in the car that I'd like you to kind of go off on is his sort of – he's a quarterback that just won't die, right? And I think that's really going to strike a chord with Liam Cohen and really endear himself to the offensive coordinator.
Yeah. Like you take Cohen's quote and like Will Howard checks a lot of those boxes. Like this wasn't in Cohen's quote, but big, strong, can run, tough, and he's dealt with adversity. True freshman year, he replaces Skylar Thompson. Doesn't go great. COVID year. He's a true freshman. Was a mid 3-star recruit. Wasn't really supposed to be in that situation, but he keeps them kind of head above water. Kansas State this year. Sophomore Skylar Thompson gets hurt again. Spot duty. Does some good things. Junior year, he's in line to start. They say, let's go get a transfer. They start Adrian Martinez. Adrian Martinez gets hurt. Will Howard leads them to a Big 12 championship, and I believe a Sugar Bowl berth where they lost to Alabama. And I believe he even got hurt and played through some injuries that year because that was the least amount he ran, really, at his time at Kansas State. And then this past year, they go out. They get Avery Johnson, who's a 4-star in-state recruit, like their version of Cutter Boley. Yeah. And they want to play him. There's probably some return on investment NIL stuff there, I would assume. Yes. They start a platoon just halfway through the season. And Howard's having this great year. Completing career high completion percentage, passing yards, passing touchdowns, career high rushing yards, rushing touchdowns. Like career highs all across the board. But they made him platoon the last 4 or 5 weeks of the season. So he's dealt with some crap there in Manhattan. That's probably not been super fair to him. I think the concern would be accuracy. He's a career 58.8% passer. That's a little concerning. And then turnovers were an issue this year. He had 10 interceptions on 357 throws. But he provides the run element. Very similar to Will Levis and how he could be a zone read and guy on powers and draws weapon in the run game. You would use him very similar to Levis in the run game. He's played in big situations. He's dealt with adversity. He had Ivy League offers out of high school. Like this is a big, tough, smart kid, and he's gonna get drafted. Like this guy is gonna get drafted, and so it's just where he lands. You could help get him there on your development. The only issue I think would be he's only a 1-year guy. That's the big con I think in his list. Other than that, I think there's a lot to like about him.
Yeah, and I haven't gotten a firm answer because I don't think they have one either on if they if it's a must be 2-year guy, if it's a must be. I think they would prefer that, but you also have to take what's kind of best available. And to your point too about the Ivy League offers. Ranger puts on the chat too that he would like to know McElroy and Cube think would fit Cohen's system like they hinted at Matt. And if you're wondering what a lot of the
big, tough, smart, good arm can move around a little bit.
And I think between the ears I think is really important, and that's hard to assess at times. But from what I've heard behind the scenes. The fit scheme-wise with Devin Leary, like he struggled with some of the stuff, like with what you put on his shoulders. I mean, Will Levis was over there in the press conference this week correcting himself on matriculate versus capitulate, right? Like that dude's a very smart cat, and he was able to handle it. And I don't think Cohen was prepared to change things enough and around so that Leary could confidently operate. Like it was just a bad fit in that regard. So you need to have a guy who's very cerebral, and getting an offer from Princeton doesn't automatically qualify you as a genius, right? Like I'm sure plenty of Ivy Leaguers offer kids that but good
at chemistry doesn't mean you're good at football. Yes,
correct. But I do think that certainly is going to play a role in it, and I'm wondering too. We know they've been in contact, and with Will Howard. And Auburn, I believe, was also mentioned. Missouri,
Louisville,
Louisville.
Missouri. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm wondering, because they're going to get these guys on visits, I'm wondering how much of it Cohen almost turns into an NFL-like visit, where they put stuff on the board and ask some questions and have him draw it up. I would think that that's going to be a part of it.
Yeah, a couple things on that. I'm not in the facility. I don't know what's going on over there. I don't know how complicated the scheme is. I know it's not super dumbed down. I know it's dumbed down a little bit from the NFL, but I know it's not dumbed down. But, like, just on a surface, us saying this out loud, like, if you've got a super senior quarterback who has played a boatload of snaps, that comes into your system and he's overwhelmed, it almost seems like a system problem to me, not a personnel problem. Like, you've got to.
That's a good point.
That can't be a situation. Now, I don't know personal what's going on there, but that's what that sounds like to me. And so I think Cohen already addressed this. We've got to figure out more ways to play with tempo and how we can mix things up, yada, yada, yada. And I think that's part of it. Not huddling. I think you've got to figure out, like, maybe some simplification problems or things this year. Because especially in the portal era, it's not like you can just grow a quarterback in the scheme. Maybe you will be able to with Cutter Bowling and Stone Saunders, but even at least one of those guys is leaving. Not both of them guys are staying, right?
Right.
You know? That's
how it works.
And so that's where just how I'm at with that. What is going on there? Why is it got to be so complicated? I guess would be my question. But I think Howard, like, he's played a lot. I think he checks a lot of boxes. I really do.
Yeah.
And whether he's the guy or not, I don't think he'll probably be the guy because if you go back to last year, they kept it really quiet.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't know of Larry until, he's going on a visit there. And a lot of other schools were linked to Larry in the beginning. I mean, even Mertz, it took us a while to find out about him. So they got out this early. I'm a little skeptical, like on him and Rodgers, if they were the names that pop out so fast. But I do think there's a lot to like with Will Howard. I really do.
The other names that have been out there that kind of get whispered about, similar to Howard being from Cohen's neck of the woods, right? He's Philly suburb. That's not far from where that Leary basically is from a Philly suburb as well. But Tyler Van Dyke is a Connecticut kid. I mean, he won the Connecticut. Him and Will Levis were winning passing awards at the same time back in 2021. So, there's maybe some familiarity there as well. I know somebody else mentioned Grayson McCall in the portal. But that one, that's just a weird cat, man. How do you go in the portal for as long as he did last year? He even opted out of the bowl game and then came back. I didn't play in the bowl game and came back. It was really bizarre. There
was some beer college vibes going on with Coastal Carolina.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, essentially, his credits
he couldn't go anywhere.
Up to snuff, essentially. But now, and he didn't graduate, so he had to graduate. Now he's graduated, he can go if he wants. I think with McCall, Nick, I know everybody likes him, and you look at the numbers, but that is he played in a special scheme, right, with Chadwell. I'd almost be interested to kind of dive into his tape with Beck, what they were this year. That would almost hold a lot more weight to me in that regard. I don't think he's going to be the guy, but he could be. I mean, we don't know.
Yeah. Well, and that's the beautiful thing about this all is that we're at the point right now where anytime quarterback hits the portal, we're either getting tagged in a tweet or there's something on the board.
Well, I appreciate the people that listened to me last week or on Monday and said, "Yeah, just tag me on it," because here you go. I've gotten 18 here you goes this week on Twitter.
I love it.
So I appreciate it. Keep them coming.
And you know what? That's what we're going to do for at least. I would say the timeline of these things. It's probably not going to be at least until next weekend or the weekend after that. There's some good intel about visits that are happening, right? I mean, that's kind of how this process works, the timetable works. So there's still a little bit of a feeling out period. Right now, like I said, off the jump, there's a lot of I'm going to enter the portal, or in KJ Jefferson's case, people saying he's going to enter the portal, then him saying I'm not going to enter the portal. So it's a little bit of it's a little bit weird. Next week, it's officially opening on Monday. We're going to be live at some point on Monday as well, discussing all of the portal moving and shaking. It's going to be chaotic. It's going to be a lot of fun. Just like it's a lot of fun whenever you go to an event with Gametime. I'm sure there was plenty of Kentucky fans that downloaded that Gametime app to go watch the Cats beat up on the Cards. It's a blast every single time with our friends at Gametime. Just download the app, put in the promo code KSR. You get $20 off your first purchase with Gametime. 2 clicks. That's all it takes. Luckett's getting to go to an NFL game this weekend. I'm sure he scrolled through to see the seats and click, let me get some tickets. Yeah, it's all it is. 2 clicks, Luckett. 2 clicks. That's all it takes. That's all it takes. 2 clicks, boom, tickets, fast, easy, efficient. Get into your favorite games right now with Gametime. Luckett, first coaching change happened in the offseason today. Scott Woodward is no longer with the Cats, and it was one of those when we were kind of deliberating ahead of this, you wondered how much his relationship with Liam Cohen would factor into the equation, and more importantly, how much his recruiting success would factor into. He is a good recruiter for all intents and purposes, but the production at that position, it just didn't cut it this year. And it's felt like so many times when you look at all of these wide receiver coaches that Mark Stoops has hired, there's just been something that just hasn't been there. And he's got to figure it out at that position because there's too much talent in that room to let it all go to waste because you can't find the right guy to coach those guys.
I think Liam Cohen being here is going to be important because he gets to hire or be part of the hiring process for a receivers coach. Boo Knight was on the staff, inherited him. Then you had that weird situation after Boo Knight got in legal trouble. Scott Woodward was brought here not to be the receivers coach. He was a quality control coach. The stuff happened with Boo Knight. They were kind of in a bind. They put Woodward there, and he just kind of got stuck there. Yeah. And I think recruiting went well for him, Nick, but I mean, the results are the results on the field. I mean, we don't have to analyze it too much. It just wasn't good.
I don't have to do a lot of stat sharing to know that the play wasn't up to snuff.
I mean, just in general, there was a lot of resources spent in that receiver room, and the production didn't come close to expectation. And so they're making a move, and I'll be interested to see what direction they go here. KSR Plus, we're going to have a hot board. It'll go up tonight. I'm working on it as we speak. I'll have it up tonight on KSR Plus. Just a few candidates. There's 2 guys at A&M, Damian Craig and James Coley, who have work experience with Mark Stoops, SEC wide receiver experience, plain as day.
Yeah,
could probably upgrade the recruit, help out with recruiting, or is it more of a, or does Cohen look more kind of his areas? I don't know. I mean, that's something we'll have to see what direction they go. But definitely going to be an interesting search. I was a little surprised. I thought they might wait for Woodward and let him close on some of these guys here, and then do it after signing day. But they're going ahead and pulling off the Band-Aid right now, and they'll have a GA will be the coach for the bowl game at receivers. And just how weird of it, that year, he was the play caller in the Music City Bowl, Nick, and then was having some recruiting success, and then now he's not. And now we move on.
It was to the point where they thought they were groomed to be the next offensive coordinator, but the receiver, the production wasn't there. And to your point, he was a quarterbacks coach by trade before he got in the QC game at Pitt and then here. So it kind of got foisted upon him, but he did do an excellent job recruiting, as you said. Jacob Polachek talked to his highest-ranked commitment in this class, Hardley Gilmore, who you can check it out on KSR Plus. But I don't think Woodward's termination is going to make a bunch of guys defect, and that's where you're seeing the Cohen effect. And that's probably why they did rip the Band-Aid off now, because a lot of it is Liam Cohen, Cutter Boley is going to be there. That was a big part of the pitch. Woodward was just the guy who got that ball rolling, right? And so, best of luck to him. But that's just kind of the nature of this business. And I hate to go back to it, but I think we're up to 6 wide receivers coaches now. Maynard, Bonai, yeah. I mean, that's just this is the one position Stoops hasn't been able to find a guy. A lot of times he's hit on some. They get not every hire is a hit, but he's had a hit at every single position at this one, and this is one he can't afford to swing and miss on because of the talent that's in that room, right? Like this is it's almost kind of like his offense coordinator hire when he got Coleman in 21. Like this has to be right. It just does because you can't. We talked last week about the kind of wide receiver culture in the locker room. Like there has to be a strong personality that's able to not only keep them from fracturing in the locker room, but also unlock that potential, because that's really what this next season, it's going and getting a quarterback in the portal like we just discussed and helping these receivers reach their potential.
Yeah, and for me, I'm very interested to see what direction it goes. Is it more of like a Stoops just hire where they go and get like a guy he has previous experience with, right? With a Coley, a Damian Craig? Or is it more of maybe what we could be seen as more of a Cohen hire where they go out and get someone?
An assistant wide receivers coach for the Rams or,
Or whatever. And then, if you do the NFL thing, do you want to wait? As long as you probably have to wait to get a guy, right?
It's true. That season doesn't end until, it's even later now. It's January 20th or whatever.
So all of that is something they're going to have to weigh. I don't know if it's going to be a quick hire. I feel like they don't have the guy lined up like they had with Boulware, right? I think Mark Stoops knew he hired Jay Boulware in October. I don't feel like that is the situation now. Even the 2 searches, were shams of searches. Like we knew Boulware and Liam Cohen were getting hired.
Yeah.
Right? This one seems like more of a real search. And so seeing how it plays out over this next few weeks. We'll just have to see what direction they go. But it is important because they really got to get better return in that room, better development in that room. They need that room to be one of the strengths of the team, and it just wasn't this past year.
Certainly wasn't. Also, not sure exactly who it might be, but it's probably not the last of the defections that we will see so far this year as the coaching carousel continues to spin, and it's spun in hilarious fashion this week because we've got Bobby 2.0, 2.0. Arkansas fans saw what Petrino did at Louisville the second time, and they were like, give me some of that. We need to bring Bobby back. And our guy John Neighbors and all the other Arkansas radio guys are just, they're ecstatic. They're partying like they're back at the Sugar Bowl. They're still high from that Ryan Mallett season, RIP. And now Petrino is back, calling plays as the offensive coordinator. And the funny part of all of this, he's only available because he couldn't save the last coach's job, right? I know Wigman got hurt and that kind of, that was out of his control and all that, but he's getting paid a good amount of money to go try to do the same thing he couldn't do at A&M. It's just desperate times down in Fayetteville. Desperate times. That just reeks of desperation.
What a sport. What a sport. This dude was fired by Arkansas for lying to his bosses, for embarrassing the university. We don't even have to get into rumors about whether there was a motorcycle wreck or not. You could go to just find you a Reddit wormhole if you're interested in reading some conspiracy theories on that. But Nick, what a sport, man! What a sport. I'm trying to think what's the equivalent like. This would be like if Kenny Payne brought Rick Pitino back to be an assistant coach or something in Louisville. This is crazy. If
that's a good one.
If Mark Stoops hired Hal Mummy, this is to call offense. This is nuts.
Oh yeah, the dude at Houston, Kelvin Sampson, going back to be an assistant for Mike Woodson.
Mike Woodson in Indiana.
Yeah,
it's insane. Yeah. Absolutely insane.
Only in college football. Only
And
in
for
college
what?
football.
And for what?
Yeah.
To for what? To make the fan base happy for 8 months. They go 5-7, and then they pay a massive amount of buyouts.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, have fun. They don't have, like, KJ Jefferson's probably leave. They don't really have a quarterback. They're going to have to go get one. Their schedule's brutal again next year. Probably going to go 5-7, 6-6. Sam Pittman's getting fired. And for what? In Petrino, you know what he's going to do? To go talk to those boosters, baby. Hey, you remember how good we had it here, baby? Like, let's run this thing back. Hire me.
Oh man, that's the perfect scenario, right? Is he scores?
He's
a
going to
ton
Phil
of
Fulmer
points.
the crap out of this.
He's going to score a ton of points. But they're not going to win enough and weasel his way into being the head coach again.
What a sport.
And we thought what happened here Saturday night was crazy. I mean,
It makes Arkansas, it makes it entertaining, though. I will say. It gives us some entertainment.
well,
I'm sure, I meant to watch Feinbaum today because I'm sure he had a take on this.
And to your point, too, about making the fans happy, I'm sure a lot of them are on the fence about Pittman, bringing him back, but the boosters weren't willing to go ahead and pay that huge buyout right away. So this is a good way to kind of pacify him for another year. So, yeah, great point, Mr.
Yeah, they're just,
Great.
instead of wasting money that way, they're wasting it somewhere else. Okay, whatever. Like 1.6 per average value over 2 years. Nick, 15 assistants made more than that last year. I mean, they're paying top 20 dime here for this guy.
Man, shout out to his agent.
Incredible.
What a great agent. And
Yeah. What a system.
people forget, too. My computer's wigging out on me. It happens sometimes when it's dying on here. People forget, too, that Petrino was going to be the UNLV head coach last year. Accepted the job.
Offense coordinator.
They made the
yeah.
graphic. But he was going to be the head coach, I thought.
Offense coordinator.
Right?
Barry
And
Odom
then
hired him to be the offensive coordinator.
Oh, okay. I thought they hired Odom to be head coach after Petrino left.
No. He
Wow,
was
what a
OC
failing
there
effort.
for like 3 weeks. Yeah.
He's like the Cliff Kingsbury of college football, right? Which we got to get Cliff back in the mix. That's what this coaching carousel's missing.
I mean, Nick, I think we've talked about this already, but he's on like the track to be a Power 5 head coach again, Petrino. I mean, he's one big year away from really getting it, or one weasel year away from sucking up to the right people and getting back in good graces from getting it. I mean, could you imagine if Kentucky played him and he was the head coach at Arkansas again?
Oh,
Like how fun that week would be. Oh, I mean, it's just incredible, absolutely incredible. And don't sleep on this, Louisville. They are one Jeff Brom miss away at quarterback in the portal from him getting some pressure, and then they'll bring Bobby back. Don't think that school won't do it. They'll do it if they think it'll win more games. They will do it. Get Brom. They'll just Brom and Petrino. They'll have pictures of them again in 06 or whatever when they won all those games. Like that, we're not that far away from that. And they just incredible. What a sport.
Oh, what a sport! What a sport indeed. Over in the other sport, Mr. Luckett, I made a mistake, and I didn't open my FanDuel app before we started the show. And Travis reminds us on the chat that Bellarmine is up on Loserville at halftime, and they were 6.5-point dogs. It was like plus 150 on the money line, and I should have just bet it when I had my app open earlier. And now they're up by 5 points at halftime in the Derby City Derby. The game has a nickname now. It's officially a rivalry because Bellarmine keeps winning in it. 5-point lead, and when you check them live, the live line at halftime, 3.5 is the number for the night. So swords up.
Nick, what is that crowd gonna look like when Kentucky goes in there?
It's gonna be very blue. It's gonna be very.
Is it gonna be a set? Like, can we get tickets? Is it gonna be a sellout?
No, we can get tickets now. I think we should push to
Through
try to
Gametime.
make it a Kentucky Kentucky home crowd. But right now, head on over to FanDuel. If you're feeling froggy and you can bet live, that's one thing that's great about having sports gambling with FanDuel Live in the state of Kentucky is you can make live wagers, something we never had the pleasure of doing previously. So go ahead, download the FanDuel app, put in the promo code personnel, place a $5 money line bet. If it wins, you're getting $150 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/personnel. Sign up today with our friends at FanDuel. I know a lot of you all were playing a lot last weekend. It was a great time to get in on the action with FanDuel. I'm hoping I'll be cashing in a nice Jane Daniels future on FanDuel here in the next 2 weeks. And then it's bowl season right around the corner. Don't miss a minute of the action with FanDuel. $5 money line wager. You'll win it. $150 in bonus bets. FanDuel.com/personnel. Must be 21 over, present in Kentucky. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. First deposit, or full terms at, oh man, I totally gave that one up. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable. Bonus bets, which expires 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Like it, I did the thing where I was reading it, and I got cocky, and I stopped reading it, and I just totally blanked, and that's on me. That's on me. My bad, FanDuel. My bad.
I think FanDuel's doing okay.
Do you think? I think they'll be all right.
I think they're happy with the good state of Kentucky right now. Got some good action going on.
Especially, they might not be happy with all the money line wagers that were placed on the Cats against the Cards, though. Might have taken a little bit of bath there.
Did you see? Well, actually, they probably didn't, Nick, because I believe someone tweeted out that was one of the most bet tickets and bet money were all on Louisville, -7.5. So they actually didn't take a bath on that. They probably had a pretty good day because the Cats covered that one.
Good for them, FanDuel. You know what? They got some of my hard-earned dollars because the emotional hedge, I won the emotional bet. I cashed my emotional winning ticket. Not the one that's filling up my coffers, but it's still it's one of those wins like it feels kind of weird, but because it did ruin a season, and we're very happy about it. But it doesn't erase everything that happened this year, and I think that's kind of why we're so quick to move on to the portal and addressing next year, because a lot of this year's problems can be traced back to the month of December last year. Thinking you had addressed those problems correctly in the portal, and you got bad return on investment. So how do they fix that this go around, right? And I think I don't have the right answers, but the pieces seem to fit, and that's why we were so high on this team. So where was that's probably what's keeping Mark Stoops up at night, right? And what kept them up at night throughout the season was, where was the disconnect? Why didn't 2 + 2 = 4?
When you complete 54, 55% of your passes, I think a lot of the struggles offensively lie there. They're supposed to depend on the passing game. They had struggles completing passes, just point blank. I think some things really checked out for me with this team. Like, Nick, the run game was up and down, which I thought it would be. The offensive line was improved. I thought the front seven was good. Secondary struggle like we thought it could.
Yep.
I think the big thing was just the receiver room came up woefully short of expectations, and Devin Leary came up short of expectations.
Yeah.
So you got to kind of figure that. And I think structurally, offensively, both sides, there's some stuff probably they need to adjust on defense, but more so on offense. I think what they want to do just wasn't working for whatever reason. And I think Cohen kind of even admitted to that, right? I think they even told on themselves a little bit in that last press conference about looking at systemic, stylistic adjustments they need to make in the offseason. And I think we're going to see some of that, and I'll be interested to see what it is. Because it's still, like, bare bones, it's still going to look pretty similar. Mm-hmm. But I think they've got to look to, like, dabble in more type modern spread stuff and not huddling, right? I don't think they need to get in a huddle all the time. I think that's going to be the big change moving forward. And then to figure out how they can mix in tempo and use tempo to their advantage, but not at the same time to where it's going to hurt the defense, because I think that's Stoops' big thing. Use it when they can really get a defense.
So, what's funny too, like about I just got kind of, it wore me out, the people complaining about plays per game, because I did feel like a lot of that was a misleading stat. And then you go and you look, I kind of pulled the numbers, and I'm going to end up doing something on this on the website before too long. But I pulled all the efficiency kind of stats, the raw efficiency stat, yards per play, points per game, yards per rush yards, pass yards attempt, third down, red zone. It's so funny, like, to see that 2021 is pretty much everything at its best. 2022, everything dips, but they only ran plays per game. It felt so much slower last year, but this year they ran 7 less plays a game. And now part of that's the clock. The clock changes. Hell, that's probably all of those, right? Like it actually should end up being more even, if you take out the new clock rules or whatever. But that very much is a problem, because if you just move a little bit faster, if you remain as efficient, you're probably scoring 4 or 5 more points a game, and that's wins, right? That's what you need.
I think they're more explosive this year. They had more pop, right? Ray Davis obviously had a bunch of big plays. There was more pop, I think, to the offense. So that had something to do with it. But efficiency was bad. I mean, their success rate number was bad again.
Well, yeah.
So they were behind the chains constantly, and that had a lot to do with, why the third and out numbers were bad. That was, to me, the biggest thing. But I do think just pace, getting in and out of the huddle, all of that, I think that's something they're going to try to improve. And I think that's what more so people are trying to get at when they bring up that point. Obviously, they're not going to move as fast as some teams, but they shouldn't be going as slow as they are. And now there's multiple factors to why you go that slow. But I do think just pace and playing with pace is something that they're going to have to get more efficient at. And I think, Nick, just like not huddling, I think is going to save them a lot of time.
Yeah. Well, and also
I think it's going to save them a lot of time.
I have a feeling, too, that Cohen's his move back to the sideline is probably for good, barring any other health issues that prevent him from being there. But he's always been a sideline guy. He goes back down, and look what the offense did. So I think that's for good. So obviously there's a lot to discuss between then and now. We've got bowl selection Sunday coming up right around the corner. Might be a rematch in Charlotte against Virginia Tech.
It's trending that way.
We're going to have, what is it, 2 opponents for this. I mean, the bowls are getting really redundant
with
for Kentucky
NC
fans.
State sprinkled in, yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully it's a little something different. But yeah, NC State would be another common bowl opponent.
Yeah, at least with NC State, it's a different coach, and it's not back-to-back years. Like, it's a different from that way. But playing them in the same venue is obviously going to be a little weird.
Right. It wouldn't be the same as Iowa going back-to-back years, but you just get a little bit more excited when you see a different logo. We'll find that out. I guess around between 3 and 4 on Sunday. There's no really set time, but the playoff stuff comes out around noon, and then the New Year's 6 is like an hour later, which I don't know why. Like, it's cut and dry.
They talk about the playoff for an hour, and then they talk about the New Year's 6 for an hour, and then they get to the rest of the bowl games.
It's all,
and then they start leaking out right around that time. So whatever, like 3-ish, I think is when it usually is.
So you're going to be swimming in the pool in Jacksonville.
I'll be on a golf course on Sunday. Yeah. So
before it Monday night football?
Yeah, it's Monday night.
Oh, okay, all right. I thought you would be just jorted out amongst the Duval crowd. Was McMurphy the guy who initially tweeted? I'm trying to recall the Fulmer fiasco because I was at the state championship games at Kroger Field when that was unfolding. Because if McMurphy tweets it out, usually it's good. But was that did Fulmer pull that deal out, even though McMurphy typically has it right about 90% of the time?
I believe Matt said earlier in the week that year that it was going to be
Gator Bowl.
Gator. And then I think we even had side conversations that everyone in Kentucky was like, it's going to be Gator. we're going to the Gator Bowl. They're going to play Indiana. Mm-hmm. And people are getting excited. So we had all that planned out. And then I think McMurphy was the first one who said it's like
Tennessee.
All the mocks were to Gator, and there was like, oh, hold on, there's he called it something like in Birmingham, and like was the first one on that, and that's what happened there because, to my knowledge, that Tennessee just changed their mind last minute. I think that was kind of what happened. I could be wrong, but I think that's kind of what happened, which they have the right to do, I guess. There's a deadline. And you get switched, but that is what happened that year.
It is just so funny, though, that, like, especially in McMurphy's case, I mean, he does other jobs, obviously, but how does one in this line of work become the bowl guy, where that's just his day? Like, it's such a weird thing.
Do you remember what happened last year? Like, did we think Kentucky was going to play someone else besides Iowa in the Music City Bowl, or did we think they were going somewhere else? We thought they were going to play someone else? I couldn't remember. Because I knew it was disappointing it was Iowa, but I couldn't remember if it was because Kentucky they thought would be somewhere else, or I was trying to think who the opponent would have been or where the location would have been, what the other options were. At this time
I think we were pretty lockstep on Music City, and it was a different Big Ten West team, though, I want to say. That we
Minnesota,
were like,
maybe?
It was either Minnesota or Wisconsin. I want to say it was Wisconsin. Where we were like, it's probably going to be one of those two. And then Doctorman there at the last minute was like, oh, it's going to be Iowa. And we're like, no, not again.
Still can't believe they did. I can't believe the Music City Bowl agreed to that. I can't believe Kentucky and Iowa agreed to that. And then the Music City Bowl got upset about the crowd. Well, no bleep, Sherlock. Like, I could have told you that. Yeah, that was just the whole thing was disappointing. How that shook out. We did it last year though, Music City Bowl.
We in Nashville.
We in Nashville.
City Bowl.
Those of you who missed the bowl event, Barry and Brown gave us a nice little serenade.
Yeah,
downtown Nashville.
Who knows what we'll get this year? We'll find out much more on Sunday. We'll do maybe a little rapid reaction, even if it's not with Luckett, maybe Drew or somebody. Or we'll figure it out. We'll have all of your coverage right here on the KSR YouTube channel. Tell your friends about us. Subscribe. Help us get to 25K. 25K is the next huge threshold milestone for this channel, so we appreciate it if you help us get there during this chaotic season where we got lots of stuff happening on KSR Plus, KSR. There's going to be a ton of coverage, so we appreciate you following along. We appreciate our presenting sponsors at Monticello Bank. For Adam Luckett, I'm Nick Roush. Go Cats and go Kroger.